I'm gonna piss somebody off, aren't I? Kingdom Hearts is, you know what? I don't need to explain it. You already know what Kingdom Hearts is. We all do. Even if we haven't been following it closely, we've still been swept up in this zany crossover between, of all things, Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Of all things, Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Kingdom Hearts. Everyone and their grandma has already talked about the Kingdom Hearts series, but nonetheless, I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring and offer my thoughts. Most of the Kingdom Hearts reviews and retrospectives on YouTube right now are done by lifelong fans of the series, so I thought it might be interesting to offer my thoughts as someone who, until midway through December last year, had never played a Kingdom Hearts game for any longer than an hour or so. And on top of that, I've somehow managed to avoid most spoilers for the entire series, so I am genuinely clueless as to what actually happens in Kingdom Hearts. I get to play these games as you guys all did years ago, as sweaty little children rolling around on the floor and getting redskins stuck in the X button. Those are racist or something, right? Why do we still sell those? So yeah, I've never played the games beyond the first hour or so of Kingdom Hearts 1. I don't know what happens later on, I haven't watched any reviews on these games, so the only thing I know to expect is some zany crossover shit and a lot of talk about darkness is good, no, light is better, you big stinky. Also, I do plan on covering, at the bare minimum, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, as well as Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, and 3 if I find that I become invested in the series. And although I won't be covering some of the lesser games like Chain of Memories and 358 divided by 2 days, what the fuck is this title, I will still play/watch them, because apparently, even though these games were released on different systems manufactured by entirely different companies, it's okay to stick important plot points in these spin-offs masquerading as mainline games. If Tetsuya Nomura wanted us to play all of them, why didn't he just number them or some shit? Like, yeah, you can play them all on the PS4 nowadays, but still, you can't defend that. I've probably already pissed a whole lot of people off, and we haven't even started. Whatever, Kingdom Hearts! Let's do it! We start the game as a young boy who has a Mortal Kombat death pit for hair, as the game uses what appears to be a dream sequence to give us a short tutorial on the game, as well as allow us to make a few important decisions. You're asked to choose one of 3 stats to prioritize: offense, defense, and magic, but upon choosing one, you also have to choose one to give up. As I was informed by Twitter, choosing to prioritize offense and neglect defense was a very stupid idea. After a few small combat scenarios, we wake up on a beach and are properly introduced to our main character, Sora, as well as his 2 best friends Riku and Kairi. They all live on the Destiny Islands, keyword there is islands, but I don't see a single other fucking island anywhere. Our main characters share the same ambition to leave the islands and discover new worlds, assuming that new worlds exist. So they get to building a raft. It sets the story off on a positive note, but honestly this first level is anything but positive. Imagine picking up Kingdom Hearts and being so excited to explore your favorite Disney worlds only to have Kairi phase in from out of nowhere, roundhouse kick you in the head and tell you, "We need logs!" What? We need logs, damn it! Also some crap about sharing a papu fruit and how it intertwines the destinies of 2 people who eat it, but whatever, no one cares. Meanwhile, we suddenly start playing an entirely different game, as court wizard Donald Duck goes to address King Mickey to find his missing, so he enlists the help of Goofy, captain of the Royal Knights, to search for the key that will protect the world from darkness, as per the instruction of a note left by the king. Yes, this happens. We jump back to Destiny Islands, apparently this is still the same game, alright, to have Riku smack you in the face this time and scream, "Let's race!" Hang on, what? Race me, bitch! I want to share the poo-poo fruit with Kairi! After a man in a hooded robe comes and tells us that the door has been opened as per the prophecy referred to in the scrolls of Yoras bestowed upon us by the cosmos or some dumb shit, creatures known as the Heartless invade the island. In a frantic attempt to find his friends, Sora returns to the spot where he saw the hooded man to witness Kairi disappear right before his eyes. Very important, remember this scene. Riku, Sora, and the rest of the world are sucked into a black hole that looks eerily similar to what happened at the start of Final Fantasy X, but not before he mysteriously obtains the Keyblade, a weapon that proves effective against the Heartless. The islands are destroyed and Sora is sent to a new world called Traverse Town, where he meets Donald and Goofy. They realize Sora has the key they're looking for, so the 3 team up to find the king as well as Sora's friends. For a series that's considered to have one of the most needlessly confusing and bloated narratives in the history of gaming, the setup is surprisingly simple and devoid of too much expository dialogue. All we know is that some disgusting black creatures are invading worlds and it's our job to give them a good smack while we search for our friends. And that's all I expected from a game that looks like this. I also fully expected dumb cringy moments like this. Just stick to the low-res models, please. We have to go back! One thing I was super impressed by was the intro cutscene with Donald and Goofy, and how well they managed to nail the style and tone of classic Disney animation, and it's something that carries out through most of the rest of the game. Donald and Goofy's official voice actors reprise their roles here as well, and while not all Disney characters are voiced by their original voice actors, the stand-ins do a respectable job, leading to a level of authenticity I wasn't expecting. And this level of polish is retained throughout almost the entire game, as each Disney world you travel to does a great job at feeling like it's source material. Yeah, there's a bit of that early noughties jank in some of the animations, but nevertheless, Square have handled a Disney family representation marvelously. Of course, none of this would mean anything if the gameplay didn't do a good enough job of carrying you through to the charming cutscenes, but it's decent, I guess. The early hours of the game are a real drag because of how limited your options are in combat. Sora's main method of attacking is this kind of sluggish 3-hit combo, and you'll be using that a lot throughout the first third of the game, but it's kind of weird and janky. That's a word that'll pop up a fair bit in this review too. Janky. A lot of things in Kingdom Hearts have that early PS2 era jank, which is mostly to be expected. It's an early PS2 game. I could point to most games from that era, except, say, the best of the mascot platformers, and find something wrong with them that's mostly only because it hasn't aged very well, and that's very true of Kingdom Hearts. Do keep an open mind as you play it, because by this point Kingdom Hearts is almost 17 years old, and it really does show at times. Like I said earlier, Sora has a basic 3-hit combo that's more or less the basis of his entire moveset. It's weird and janky in a few ways. For example, it has this weirdly long wind-up that occasionally makes it hard to hit enemies that aren't standing still. And if your first hit misses, then the whole combo cancels out, leaving you vulnerable for a short period of time. It is, at first, annoying, but I think it results in you having to take a more methodical and defensive approach to encounters, as missing can backfire very easily. Apart from the standard X combo, the only options you have at the beginning are to run, jump, use items, and the ability to perform a tech, which I'll explain properly in a bit. Combat remains this simple for some time, but it's when you start to gain new abilities that combat becomes more interesting. At first it's simple things like dodging and guarding, but later on you get access to combo extenders, limit breaks that consume MP, and so on. You go from being a small stinky boy who just flails his big key around to zipping about the room hitting everything with a 3 billion hit combo like it's Dragon Ball Z up in this bitch. You can't just chuck every single ability on for shits and giggles as you have limited ability points, so you'll have to pick and choose your favorites. I personally always went for the ones that extended my combo, gave me more movement options, and overall just made combat more enjoyable and flexible, while mostly neglecting the attacks that I needed MP to use because I'm a tight ass and I like being able to heal without any worries. Learning to tech is very important too. It's essentially a sort of parry system. You can hit enemies during their attack animation to cancel their attack, or you can do your best Link impression and hit projectiles back at the enemy. Each tech you perform gives you bonus experience points too, giving you incentive to, as the children say, actually get good. Again, the long wind up on Sora's attack means teching initially is quite hard to pull off, but guarding makes it much easier. I'll admit I didn't know guarding counted as teching at first, so I never actually had it set until very late in the game. That's no fault of the game, I'm just a dense little shit. As you progress through the game, you gain access to magic spells, named after their Final Fantasy counterparts. Each spell has several different upgraded forms that you can obtain as you progress further and meet specific criteria, such as Fire becoming Fire and then Firaga. The one I used most was Thunder for its wide area of effect and decent damage output, but aside from that, the only truly useful spells are Cure and Arrow. Cure is useful for the obvious reasons, it fucking heals ya, what did you expect, Fascination Street? And Arrow raises your defense, which is useful for those bosses who like to hit you with massive AoE attacks that almost wipe you out in one go if you aren't paying attention. Looking at you, Chernabog? These magic spells as well as items are accessed through the command menu, which I'm of two minds about. On one hand, you can whip out a potion without once pausing the game. On the other hand, it takes my attention away from what's happening, and if I want to keep moving, I have to go into crab claw mode because you navigate the menu with a D-pad and confirm with X. I haven't played much of Kingdom Hearts 2 as of writing this review, but I much prefer its method, where you can optionally hold down L2 and use the right stick to navigate the menu, so you can keep moving about and battle with no issue. All in all, I think I'd prefer pausing to heal. I mean, it worked in the Tales of games, so I think it'd work fine here as well, but it's fine as it is. You do have a traditional RPG party helping you out too. Of all fucking people, Donald and Goofy are your party members, and though you can't control them yourself, they can prove to be helpful AI-controlled partners. What's that? Why yes, I did just say they can be helpful. Huh? You're telling me Donald never heals you? Did you try going to the customize menu and telling Donald to use defensive magic constantly? Seriously, I've seen memes in regards to Donald not healing you, but I never ever had this issue. Well, apart from when he fucking dies every 13 seconds because he has less HP than my far left toe. The enemies you'll be fighting are the titular Heartless, which come in all shapes and sizes. I kinda love their designs. Even though they're disgusting black creatures, they fit very well into each of the worlds you visit and feel like a well-realized combination of Disney's cartoony designs and Square's more fantasy-inspired ones. They don't encourage much experimentation with the game's combat mechanics though, and I think that may be one of my biggest gripes with the combat. A janky combat system can be forgiven if you can do interesting things with it or have enemies that provide new challenges, but enemies in Kingdom Hearts usually fall into one of two categories. Wow, I have legs! Or, Wow, I don't have legs! There are definitely exceptions to this rule. There are some enemies that block, some enemies you can only attack from behind, and enemies that teleport about the place, but a lot of the enemies just end up feeling the same to fight against. With a bit more variation, the combat could have really stood out, but as it is, most enemies can just be taken out by whacking the X button until they fall down. Teching, and by extension guarding, could have played a much larger role in these minor combat scenarios, and yes, you can tech enemies if you wish, but the generally cramped design of the levels as well as the large number of enemies you usually encounter means that the screen gets to be a mess, and attempting to tech is probably the worst thing you can do if you wish to stay alive. At least when enemies are defeated, they explode into a shower of collectibles in the most satisfying way possible, and these little orbs have their uses. Green ones restore your health, blue ones restore MP, and the beach ball looking things are money. Always keep an eye out though, because you don't want to miss when an enemy drops that big money. Where the game usually picks up is its bosses, which either have a unique method of exposing them so you can damage them, or are just generally fun to fight. Again, there are exceptions, but boss fights highlight how the game seems to handle combat against a single enemy much better than it does against a small horde of them. Quite a few bosses turned out to have some very cheap tactics, such as AoE attacks that were hard to avoid, projectiles that home in on you in large quantities, or in the case of one or two bosses towards the end, both at once. But even the cheap bosses can be fun and satisfying to overcome, and the best bosses do a fantastic job at appropriating the simple and kinda janky combat system by turning it into something much more exciting. Some examples, the long boy from Wonderland is a bit of a pain in the ass because he's out of reach most of the time, but if you learn to reflect his projectiles back at him, he's much more enjoyable. And the same could be said for Cerberus. I'll admit this is where I put the controller down all those years ago when I first tried Kingdom Hearts because I didn't think the combat system was suitable for this fight. It felt very cheap and unfair. But again, learn to tech, be patient, and even take advantage of the fact that you can jump on his back to avoid projectiles and get a few free hits in, and he becomes a very enjoyable boss, albeit perhaps one that appears a little too early on. My favourite fights are the ones where it's just you and the boss and it becomes this tense 1v1 scenario where you can't rely on Donald to heal you and Goofy to be a meat shield. Specifically the fights against Riku, which is a mirror of this fight on Destiny Islands, which is really cool, and the fight against Jotaro.
Ho, 向かってくるのか。近づかなきゃてめえをぶちのめせないんでな。ほほう。では十分近づくが。
To sum up my feelings on the combat, on one hand it can be extremely fun and rewarding despite having aged about as well as that carton of sour cream that leaked onto the bottom of the fridge that I keep forgetting to clean out. On the other hand, instinctively mashing X when a group of enemies appears becomes second nature, and the game switches between these extremes at a breakneck pace, resulting in an experience that is exciting but exhausting. Kingdom Hearts isn't just about fighting Heartless though. You'll be exploring several different worlds, most of which are based on a different Disney property. Over the course of the game, you'll travel to Wonderland from Alice in Wonderland, Deep Jungle from Tarzan, Olympus Coliseum from Hercules, the 100-Acre Wood from Winnie the Pooh, Agrabah from Aladdin, Monstro from Pinocchio, Halloween Town from The Nightmare Before Christmas, Atlantica from The Little Mermaid, and Neverland from Peter Pan, as well as Traverse Town, Destiny Islands, Hollow Bastion, and End of the World, all original creations designed specifically for Kingdom Hearts. Exploring these levels sees the game turn into a little bit of a 3D platformer. A very simple 3D platformer at that, mind you, and a very janky one. I know I've been using that word a little too much, but I think the platforming in this game is the one thing that truly deserves to be called janky. Despite Sora being an overexcited child with boundless energy, he needs to stop for a quick breather every single time he lands. Jumping as a result feels very sticky and unresponsive. You can jump immediately after landing and just keep hopping along, but you can't move after landing. This led to a lot of situations where I thought I'd be able to keep moving immediately after I landed, but Sora doesn't. But in my head, my brain's already done the math and thinks, oh, I've already moved to the edge of the platform so I can jump now. But he hasn't moved, so I just fall to my fucking doom instead. Sometimes he doesn't even jump. He just slips right off the edge even though I pressed circle a second before. It's like I have to set up a fucking appointment with the jump button prior to actually pressing it. There's also a degree of inconsistency in parts of the level design, particularly when platforming in areas filled with water. Sometimes Sora will grab a ledge and jump on no problem, other times he just doesn't. My dude, the hippo is barely sticking out of the water, just fucking jump up.
Oh, okay.
The devs must have known how icky and sticky the jumping felt, so they may have purposely designed most of the levels to be as forgiving as possible when missing jumps. And luckily, aside from this, the worlds are fun to explore most of the time. Each world is surprisingly concise, meaning backtracking or even returning to the world later on is pretty painless. And it's always worth returning to each world to nab all those chests or trinity spots you may have missed or couldn't access on your first time through. There's usually unique ways to interacting with each world, such as being able to fly in Neverland, swinging on vines or tree surfing in the Deep Jungle, and swimming in Atlantica, which helps every world feel unique, even if some of these aren't quite as good as others. Oh, thank fuck Atlantica and Kingdom Hearts 2 is a rhythm game. You'll also occasionally use spells to interact with environments, such as lighting candles, zapping cables, simple stuff, you know? The game is usually pretty light on puzzles, with the most complex ones being use a spell on this thing or activate this thing, but I'm thankful because I feel like complex puzzles in a game like this would have bogged down the pretty quick pacing big time. One thing I noticed, and this may just be me, but I really don't feel like I'm visiting the world so much as I am being whisked into some sort of pop-up diorama version of them. The streets of Agrabah, the seats of the Colosseum, the Kingdom of Atlantica, they're all eerily devoid of life. The cramped and boxy nature of each area also doesn't help, especially so in Wonderland, where everything literally looks like a room instead of what it's actually supposed to be. Sometimes the level design hits the nail on the head, other times it misses entirely and the game starts gushing blood all over itself. The visuals themselves and the general art direction is still really good. It's vibrant, it's easy on the eyes, and characters are animated extremely well for its time when they're not resorting to 2 frames of animation that make characters look like mouth breathers. The production value is generally quite high, it's just a shame that some of it falls a little flat. Honestly, most of the levels in Kingdom Hearts are a mixed bag, but the one thing that's perfect about all of them is the soundtrack. I didn't know what I was expecting when I went into this game, but holy hell can Yoko Shimomura make a pop and beat or what? Literally no song in this game can be considered bad. Some are decent, a little forgettable, but almost every other single track in this game ranges from, dude, yeah, I could listen to this on repeat for like 12 hours, to I may as well just end it all now because I don't think I'll ever hear anything as beautiful and pure as this again. Okay, maybe that was overreacting, but like, when you boot up a game and you hear this?
That game looks so beautiful. I love it.
Dearly beloved.
Traverse Town is probably one of my favorite songs ever. On one hand, it has this soft but mysterious choir in the background that leads to a feeling of unease or even curiosity, which is fitting for Sora, who woke up here after Destiny Islands were destroyed. But on the other hand, it sounds so... what's the right word here? Comfy? You know it's not true, but it's like you've known this place your whole life. Is it normal to want to cuddle up to a piece of music? Some of my favorite field themes are from Traverse Town, Monstro, and Hollow Bastion, and some of my favorite battle themes are also from Traverse Town and Hollow Bastion, as well as Halloween Town. And yes, every single world has its own battle theme. RPGs have always had iconic battle themes, but you have to admit, after 30 or 40 hours, you do kind of wish for something else to tickle your ear holes. Last surprise, I love you, but Persona 5 is a 100-hour RPG. I'm officially sick of you, and when Joker comes to Smash Bros. Ultimate, I will be turning you all the way down. Kingdom Hearts is at least a quarter of the length of Persona 5, and it gives us a unique battle theme for every world, as well as several boss themes, so no song outstays its welcome, and almost all of them are of near equal quality. Personally, I can't wait to see what they do music-wise going forward, but it's going to be hard to top this OST. Also, I don't know how I've gone this far without mentioning the gummy ships, but unnecessary they are, but horrible they are not. It feels kind of weird because once you stop moving your ship, the reticle just sort of snaps back to directly in front of you, meaning accuracy isn't one of the gummy ship's strong suits. But like, these parts aren't as bad as everyone says, and if you take the time to actually go into the editor and build your own ship, then you'll... okay, I see the problem. Or do I? Because I can't tell what the fuck. Finally, let's talk a little bit more about that story, because it's pretty important, obviously. I'm gonna try my best to sum it up as simple and clean as possible. Once Sora, Donald, and Goofy set off to find their friends, we're introduced to a whole bunch of Disney villains sitting around a table and scheming some shit. Essentially, with the Heartless under their command, they're going into different Disney worlds, letting the Heartless run rampant, and trying to find the 7 Princesses of Heart. So when you go to each world, you also have to defeat the Heartless and seal the keyhole to prevent the heart of the world being consumed by darkness, while also trying, and failing, to stop the Disney villains from kidnapping the princesses. It ends up feeling a bit more like B-plot that's trying to pull the rug out from under the main plot's feet. Yes, it's fun to visit these worlds, interact with your favorite characters and so on, but almost all of it is filler with fancy set dressing. Almost nothing you do has any effect on the plot. You could remove Deep Jungle, Atlantica, and Halloween Town from the game and nothing of value in regards to the story would be lost. The only time anything relevant happens in these worlds is when you encounter Sora's friend Riku, whom Maleficent has tricked into thinking that Sora has abandoned him for some duck and a dog. Riku has found Kairi, but Kairi's heart appears to be missing, and Maleficent convinces Riku that he can use the power of darkness to help bring Kairi back. Jesus Christ, this is some drivel. So now every time Naruto encounters Sasuke, it becomes some of the edgiest preteen drama shit I've seen this side of DeviantArt.
Good to see you again.
Well, where are Donald and Goofy?
Are they that important to you? More important than old friends?
Shit really starts going down when the gang arrives at Hollow Bastion, and Riku shows up again and you think, boo-hoo, he's gonna cry about being abandoned again. But instead he kicks Sora in the gut, spits in his face, calls him a weak-ass little pussy bitch and nicks the Keyblade, realizing that he is the true Keyblade wielder. And then Donald and Goofy are like, we gotta follow the key, and abandon you as well. So you spend the next 20 to 30 minutes in this extremely helpless state with nothing but a wooden sword, your kind of pitiful magic, and Beast's absent-minded AI to navigate through the lower areas of Hollow Bastion. Losing the Keyblade is almost like losing a limb, and the game really makes you feel that. It's a great little section. You do eventually get the Keyblade back, and traitors 1 and 2 rejoin you, because Sora realizes his power doesn't come from the giant key that magically appeared in his hands, but from, friendship. After a lover's spat with Riku and a battle against Maleficent, which, god damn, she got fucking bodied, we confront Riku once more, except this time he's possessed by some dude called Ansem. Ansem is mentioned at the beginning of the game. He's someone who is studying the Heartless and keeping record of his findings, and King Mickey had set out to find him and obtain his help in quelling the Heartless threat. But nope, here he is, possessing Riku, pulling the strings behind the scenes, and being kind of a hunk. Ansem, more like handsome. It's eventually revealed that Kairi is one of the 7 princesses of heart, and when this scene happened at the start of the game, Kairi's heart was separated from her body, but her heart now resides within Sora. Realizing that Ansem's Keyblade can unlock hearts, Sora recklessly grabs it and shoves it into his chest, returning Kairi's heart to her body, but turning Sora into a Heartless. I thought the game was going to do some cool shit here, maybe we'd have to explore Hollow Bastion and figure out a way to turn back, but nope. Instead we just waddle on down to the bottom of Hollow Bastion and get better, because the light in Kairi's heart returns him to... Some more stuff happens. We seal the keyhole that Ansem was trying to open for some reason, but it doesn't matter because we'll just meet him again after a quick jaunt through the game's final area, End of the World. Also, fuck this bit, this room is just epilepsy in video game form, though the fight afterwards against Chernobog makes up for it and then some. Apparently this dude was planned to be the final boss in the early stages of development, and I can't think of anything more legendary than potentially having the final boss theme be Night on Bald Mountain. Sora eventually finds himself back on Destiny Islands, albeit a little bit broken, where he confronts Handsome Ansem once more in a tense one-on-one battle.
Submit!
Anything for you, daddy! Also, my favorite attack of his is where his stand dude jumps into Sora's body and keeps inflicting damage to him over and over, and also freezes you if you try to attack, so you've just got to deal with it until it stops. That's a really fun mechanic. If there is a way to deal with this other than don't get hit by it in the first place, then please feel free to make fun of me in the comments. The anime references don't stop there, because Ansem summons a big, thick, meaty penis mech that looks eerily similar to Daiguren. You beat up Handsome Ansem for the final time, right outside the door to Kingdom Hearts itself. Ansem turns to the door in a final desperate motion.
Kingdom Hearts, fill me with your darkness.
No, Stanko. Kingdom Hearts is light.
But the stupid shit just keeps going. Kingdom Hearts actually is filled with darkness. Mickey decided his paycheck wasn't big enough to say any more than 3 lines of dialogue, so he only appears at the very end, alongside Riku, he's here too I guess, whom helped close the door from the inside, sealing the darkness away. All the destroyed worlds are returned to their previous state of existence, Kairi gets sent back to the islands, and a new arrangement of Simple and Clean plays the game off into the credits. Whew! I mean, okay, honestly, the plot isn't really that great. It's mostly a story of teen angst that the target audience can relate to, and if you were playing a drinking game where you take a shot every time someone says heart, light, or darkness, you would have kicked the bucket 48 times over. And yet, there's something kind of charming about it all. It's incredibly cheesy, dumb, laughable, but in a way it's kind of endearing. I won't say it had me on the edge of my seat, but I never really wanted to stop playing, you know? Kingdom Hearts is dated, but even if I were reviewing this in 2002 when it first hit shelves, I'd probably end up saying the same thing. It's jank. Everything about it is jank. The jumping, the attacking, the lock-on, the gummy ship sections, the flying, the swimming. It feels more like I'm fighting the game rather than playing it at times. The Disney crossover material is amusing, but in the end it doesn't amount to much more than filler. And the actual plot is some of the most dumb, childish, and inadvertently funny shit I've ever seen. And yet, despite all my rambling and pedantic nitpicking, I would easily recommend people play this in a heartbeat. Kingdom Hearts is a game much greater than the sum of its parts. Nothing in this game would be considered anything more than passable or good, except the music, which, loosely paraphrasing the hit song Flaunt It by TV Rock, these tracks are designed to make you cream. You don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, do you? But everything just comes together so well in the end to create a campy little masterpiece that has no right being as good as it is. It shouldn't have worked. It's one of the most batshit insane concepts I've ever heard of, and I am totally on board. Let's fucking go. I hereby declare myself a Kingdom Hearts fan. Give it to me. Stick it in my fucking veins! Okay, so I have no intention of reviewing Chain of Memories or 179 Days, so I'm just gonna sum up my thoughts on them here. Yes, I did play them. No, I am not skipping any of the games in the franchise. Chain of Memories is stinky. I don't know how anyone enjoys this. It's very bad. Alright, I'm exaggerating, but what about sorting through a big-ass deck of cards to attack while still moving around in a 3D environment sounds fun to anybody? I had people tell me it gets fun when I get access to Sonic Blade or whatever, but that's just like saying it's more fun when you get the one broken attack that nothing can withstand. No thanks fellas, I'm not picking up what you're putting down. Annoyingly though, the GBA game turned PS2 remake turned PS4 port is central to the overall plot. So I just skipped over the game itself and watched the cutscenes on YouTube. Chain of Memories introduces Organization 13, a group of hooded characters who are very important to the story, and watching them scheme in the shadows while Sora explores Castle Oblivion and has his memories pinched by a girl named Namine was pretty enjoyable. The other game in the 1.5 collection, 358 Days Over 2? Right, 358 over Who Gives a Hoot, originally a DS title, is only a collection of cutscenes separated by bits of text in the PS4 collection, though from what I've heard the original game had a very repetitive mission structure, so I'm glad they went with this route, even if it makes for some cool character development and plot advancement told in a pretty poor way. The first half of this is a real slog. It's literally just Roxas, Axel and Shion sitting atop a clock tower eating ice cream. I get why they're doing this, it's the easiest way for Roxas to understand the meaning of friendship or something, but it's just ice cream, text, ice cream, text, ice cream, text, ice cream, text. I never want to eat fucking ice cream again. It sucks because I genuinely like these characters. I was rooting for all three of them right up until the end. If I even start to explain what exactly is happening in this game, I'll be here forever, and this video is already overly long as it is. But just know that yes, I've watched both these games, and I'm not going into Kingdom Hearts 2 blind. Don't get your willy in a twist. A big fucking thumbs up to all the fucking sick cunts on Patreon pledging $5 to me every month. We're fucking sick cunts. I've said cunts 3 times in a row now. You can tell I didn't write an intro. Anyway, here's all the sick cunts. Mitchell Reese, Pierre Cretem, Nation McAltile, Basebreaker, Diablo5564, Tyler Cross, Duncan Austin, Pastor Boy, Brandon Partain, Gabba Scabba, Leo Alex50, Heat Hoot Skyet, Global Truncation Error, Laurent LaCroix, Sheepy, Loomis Doomis, Scubo, Chatter Estop, Getner Khan, Cooper James Price, Sebastian Orbe, Nathaniel Forrest, Tyler Who Cares, Travis Miranda, Thomas Hart, Lazaro Dave, and the Ruby Red Rose. You're all sick cunts and I fucking love ya.